Welcome everybody to the Monday, May 13th, 2024 WMNR Commission meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order if we can at 7:06 p.m. Tonight we have Jim, Patty, Rose, and Kurt, as well as myself, Brian. And I think we'll jump right into it with the approval of the wonderful minutes that Rose has put together for us from March. I'm just checking the date there. For March 5th, 2024, right?
Correct.
2023 on there.
Well, at the top of the draft minutes, it should say 2024.
It does. Yep, I'm just reading on the agenda itself.
Oh, yeah. Ooh.
It's just a minor tweak. Jim and Patty, have you had a chance to take a peek at this?
Yes. I can make a motion to accept the minutes as presented?
I was able to go through it myself before the meeting. How about you, Jim?
Yes, I was able to go through it on my cell phone,
Any questions, any challenges, anything before we pass it?
Nope.
So
Okay,
Patty
go
made a
ahead.
motion. Someone
Go
has
ahead,
to
Patty.
second it before the vote.
Yep.
I'll make a motion that the,
Patty made the motion. We need
Oh,
a
okay.
second.
a second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
The minutes are accepted as presented. Thank you very kindly. Moving on to section 3, general manager's report. In the beginning there, Kurt, you wanted to discuss the April on-air fundraiser?
Yes, wanted to report great team. Rose, of course, anchoring it all. Helped us raise $49,917. And we had an incredible 47 new members. Usually we get 30, but in this case, we actually got 47, which was great because we need new members.
Any idea what brought the increase, or just luck of the draw?
Luck of the draw. I mean, I don't think it made tons of difference, but one of the things we do as a talking point, have a small new member package that fits into a number 10 business envelope that gives us, it's a bumper sticker and a bookmark, just something to, not that anybody necessarily wants or cares about a bumper sticker or bookmark, but just something as a talking point. It just worked, and we're going to try to do that again in the fall because we could certainly use new members.
Excellent. Yeah, if you've got a formula that works, use it.
Well, sometimes it works better than others. In this case, it did. So.
Okay, moving on to the proposed 2025 budget and the fiscal year 2024 financial report.
Yes, I realized in the past I just kept mentioning about the budget, but it does contain a financial report for actual year to date for March 31st. That's the most we had bank reconciliation for. And then, of course, before that's the middle column, the actual year to date for March 31st, 2024. Then we have projected for the end of this fiscal year, June 30th, and then there's the proposed column. It's a trying to. It's interesting. Historically, for many years, the income we end up getting is greater than that which we budgeted, but yet we don't presume it the next time. They're conservative numbers, so that's why the income's down a little, but we'll see how it actually happens. Better to play it conservative on these things. The in previous years, we'd always then had a surplus. We always raised extra. This year, actually, we have a projected a deficit of 23,000. And what we're projecting for next year is a budget which has a deficit of 11,000. And of course, normally you run deficits 2 years in a row. We just lost Patty. Till she calls back in, we don't have a quorum. So the minutes, Rose, should note that Patty left the meeting because she dropped out at 7:12. And when she joins back in, the minutes will reflect it. I've seen them do this for town council meetings. When of course, they didn't lose a quorum, just somebody of the 9 left the room and then came back in, or maybe there was an internet problem back in the old days. So in this case, we'll just have discussion. We can't have a vote until Patty rejoins the meeting and we once again have a quorum. But we
Gives
have
us another chance to once again say how wonderful Rose is at putting all this together for us.
No, Sue does all the budgets and stuff. We'll give Sue the credit for that.
Yeah.
I was going to
Yeah.
give you the credit on the minutes, and then I was going to give
Oh,
you
okay.
credit on putting together all this. But Sue, I didn't realize Sue did the budget stuff. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's been with us since 2015, and she does 98% of the work, and I just come in and tweak a little 2%. So again, just continuing discussion. We can't have a vote till
Patty's
Patty joins us.
connection comes back online.
Yeah. So, while there is a projected deficit of 23,000 this year and 11 for the next year, our cash balance is very good. We had a good cash balance actually after COVID. The special COVID funds that we got as a public radio station, meeting the Corporation for Public Broadcasting Standards as a professional station, it did us quite well and helped us out during that tough time. So we're doing well. Any questions?
I just off on a different topic. Looking back at the minutes before I reread what we discussed last time about the possibility of changing the tower colors to something more neutral, so that it would blend in more. And I just wondered, can the lights make that much of a difference where blending in the color of the tower makes sense?
Well, just for the sake of if those following along on this recording later. We could bring that up when we get to F. Great, thank you.
Sorry.
The short
Happy to-
version. So Rose, she re-entered at 7:15, rejoined the meeting. I had to note your absence because without it, we didn't have a quorum and we couldn't take a vote, Patty.
I know.
That's okay. Thanks
You
for,
need to vote.
we'll try to make it quick.
It got dropped. Yeah.
So the short version, go ahead.
It just dropped. I must have been in a dead zone.
Yeah, no, I understand. So again, we're on the budget. Normally we
Okay.
always have surpluses. In this case, we're projecting a $23,000 surplus and a projected, $23,000 deficit and a projected deficit of 11,000 for next year. But our cash balance is very good, and I'm not worried about running potential small deficits 2 years in a row.
Okay.
How many bars do you have now, Patty?
4 or 5. 4.
Oh, good. I just want to know if we should hurry up and approve the budget before you dropped out.
Yeah, why don't we do that? Anything you need a vote for? Let's do it now.
Yeah, no, well, the budget's the only other thing besides the minutes.
Okay.
Sorry, Brian, so any other questions about the budget?
Um, not really. Not. It looks pretty straightforward. You do a great job of presenting it. We see changes in part-time salary figures. Oh, it's just a year-to-date figure. No, it all makes sense.
Well, we are doing a 3% increase on the part-time people. Um, um, the minimum wage folks on Jan 1 get an automatic cost of living increase. It's set by the state, and the others for the first time in a few years will be getting, for some of them, will be getting a 3%. Yeah.
It looks like the rent's holding pretty steady. You're getting what, about a 2% increase there in a year?
Yes. Let's see. The grant amount. Sorry, let me go to the income
I was
page.
just talking about the rent. Right.
Oh, the rent. Yeah, the rent's about 3% a year.
3% a year.
It's based on cost of living.
Yep.
I mean, believe it or not, the lease is up in 3 years. No, 4 years. And with no renewables. So actually, I think we'd like to start about having and the landlord's willing to have us continue to stay here on a lease of his making. He inherited the lease when he bought the place. Works well for us, and we'll see about getting that set for a few more years.
Okay. So I'm comfortable with what I've seen. Jim, are you comfortable?
Yes, everything, I love the way the budget is handled. Everything is like stays within the norm. Nothing is over, and I think, the station and Kirk have done a fantastic job in doing this.
Yeah, there's no big red flags.
Hmm.
Anything you'd like to bring our attention to, Kurt?
Well, again, I mentioned a few things in the cover memo. We're very fortunate, and I do want to give an official mention for the minutes. It's in the cover memo that this year we were able to get an additional $38,000 in income as in interest, because before, for quite a few years now, we were in some little 0.5% interest account or 0.1% interest account. I kid you not. We had $800 of interest budgeted for this year. But last summer, after the budget, the new town treasurer, Frank Duchess, he noticed that the excess revenue, the cash reserves that WMNR has and the town holds for us, wasn't in the high yield interest account, which their best description internally is the ICS account. So he moved us in last summer, and then all of a sudden, we've got $38,771 extra in interest that we have for this year, and that we're budgeting for next year as well. It's a great deal that the town cuts with Newtown Savings Bank, and then up until and the WMNR funds weren't taking advantage of it until last summer when he noticed we weren't in that count and he added us. And I thanked him very much last summer for noticing it. Previous town treasurers hadn't. It was great because every little bit helps, and that's an easy $38,000. So the CPB grant is staying the same. That's going to be up to $90,000 this year in terms of another income level. So yes, it's that part is doing fairly well.
That's great. All right. Who'd like to make a motion to, well, I guess we have to put it, what's the proper order on this?
Someone makes a motion, someone seconds it, then there's a vote.
Standard, okay. Would like to make a motion on accepting the budget as presented.
I'd like to make a motion on accepting the budget the way it is.
I'll second.
Thanks, Jim. And thanks, Patty, for seconding. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Great, then the budget has passed as presented.
Thank you.
Thank you very kindly. That's a lot of work right there.
Well, Sue does most of it. We're fortunate to have her. She had left us for about a year, and now she's back. She's been back since December, and hopefully be able to keep her for a few more years. She does a very, very, very good job.
That's great.
And it really helps that she's just 3 minutes from town hall, because she's got to drop off invoices and then a week later pick up checks and come back here and mail them out.
Oh.
So it's easy. Works really well. Moving
Okay.
on to category C, line agenda items 3C. W289 AX East Hampton is off the air and being moved. About every 12 years, the FCC, not on a strict schedule, has certain filing windows for different kinds of facilities, and oh gee whiz, probably around 15 years ago, we filed for 5 translators and ended up getting 3 of them, 1 in Connecticut, 2 in Long Island. And I ended up putting 1 of them at one of our major supporters, their house in East Hampton. He was a retired New York City school teacher. Wasn't a fancy house, but he loved the station and strongly supported it. Unfortunately, he passed away a little more than a year ago, and I had to go 2 months ago, a month ago, I lose track, and take the antenna down off the roof and remove the equipment. So we had to file with the FCC to let them know that it's off the air. I'm hoping to move it down the road. I found a new tower to put it on. I just have to work out a lease, but it's an existing small tower that used to have a business radio on it that there's nobody on it right now. So, and towers are rare, and this one's a small one that only could take somebody like us. It's very thin, couldn't take cellular or anything else. So I'm hoping to be able to get a good deal on it. So that's that would cover the East Hampton, Long Island area. Number D, W233 AG New London is one of 3 translators we have at 94.5. The one that we had on 94.5 in Long Island, we took it off the air, notified the FCC, filed to have it moved to a new location and a new frequency. We received permission to do that. I intend to build that out this summer. The 94.5 in Old Saybrook, we filed to move it to 94.7. The FCC's issued that. I hope to take care of that this summer. The last 94.5, we have 3 of them on the same frequency, which is being taken over by a commercial station, as they're allowed to do. Is the W233 AG New London at 94.5. And we filed to move it, but then it was granted in 1998, and they said no problem. And now, for some reason, the software that the FCC uses to see if there might be an air navigation hazard is thinking this 10-story building might be an air, and our little 18-foot antenna on top might be an air navigation hazard. I don't think it is. We're working on getting the FAA issues resolved so we can get a grant for the new frequency and move that over this summer. The one thing I mentioned, we have 4 stations that are guaranteed their spots on the dial. We have 15 translators that are theoretically vulnerable, but it's extremely rare. Once we lost the site for Mount Kisco, but we didn't lose, and we didn't lose the frequency. And then these 3 and 94.5, I've known for 15 years that the frequency was going to be offered for sale, for auction, for commercial radio. None of the others are vulnerable. These 3 are the only ones. All the other ones are where nobody else could bother it. The band's just too crowded. So anyway, we're looking to get the New London FAA issues resolved. The FCC won't grant it until it looks cleaned by the computer or a real human looks at it. A lot of talk there about a lot of different 94.5s, but those are the balls we have up in the air right now. But they're moving along, and we have authorizations for 2 of the 3. I just need the authorization for the 3rd, and then we just build them out this summer. And do some marketing to let people know we're new frequencies in these various places. Any questions?
Marketing
No.
in the form of paper advertising or mailings or something?
Well, the number one thing is we've got about 45,000 listeners and about 3,000 members. We'll make on-air announcements, because some people could be confused because they might be listening in Hartford and like, what? New London? So we'll do on-air announcements. We'll do mailings. We have people that maybe gave once 5 or 10 years ago in the New London area, but we still have their addresses. And correct me if I'm wrong, Rose, don't we do address corrections through NCOA even for lapsed members?
Correct, yes.
So we have updated addresses from 10 years ago. If they're still there, maybe they moved somewhere else. So yes, we'll do a mailing and a postcard, and then we'll also do social media and see if we can maybe get a little mention in whatever newspaper still might be available. There is one in New London. Don't know about Old Saybrook, but we are our own media, so it's easy to do that. And besides, we also have our e-newsletter, which goes out to around 2,000 people. Some people might be signed up for that we don't have the physical address for, mailing address. So we'll do a full advertising, but we can localize it, because New London, it's going to 101.9. Old Saybrook, it's going to 94.7. They're not all going to the same place. But certainly we'll mention the 2 along the shoreline at the same time.
Neat. Yeah, I didn't know if you had to shut these things off before you had a chance to tell listeners how you reached them. That's
well,
great. You always seem to have an answer.
The Old Saybrook one, we're going to advertise that on this date, on this time, it's moving, or maybe 2 dates. Depends if the weather's nice. Pouring rain, I prefer not to do it, but so we'll let them know it's going to change to the new frequency on bingo this date. New London, we've got to climb a tower and change an antenna. So we may say during the week of, Monday through Friday, it'll change. So we're going to try to not have loss of service. We'll keep loss of service down to 10 minutes or 2 or 3 hours.
Impressive.
Well, we can do it. We will.
Okay, moving on. Patty, were you looking to ask something?
Pardon?
I didn't know if I cut Patty off before.
No. I'm okay.
Okay.
Category new aviation lights for WMNR Tower at Stepney Elementary. I've asked the consulting engineer to start preparing the FCC, and he said it might be FAA paper. Patty, when we were just having to fill time till you got back on, one of the questions that Brian brought up, which I can answer now, is it was mentioned in the minutes for the last meeting. The idea of being able to paint the tower so that it's light gray or light blue. Right now, it can't be that way. It's only lit at night. During the day, it has to be aviation orange and white, so it's visible because it's over 200 feet. However, when we switch, and we have the incandescent lights at night at the top and halfway up. When we switch to the LED system, there'll be two sets of lights. You see this on the tower on Guinea Road Dump, where the old dump was decades ago. Up on Guinea Road, which you could see from, well, some parts of Monroe. You see this on other towers in other locations, but not a lot of cell towers are tall enough for it. There is one in 84 by exit 16 on the Middlebury Southbury line. It's not a tall tower, but it's in the flight. It's in the flight path for runway at Oxford Waterbury Airport. So it has blinking white lights during the day, and they're bright. And at night, they have dimmer red lights that are on. And so because the new LEDs have blinking white lights during the day, the tower no longer needs to be painted so it's visible. So the idea would be then we would paint the tower either light gray or light blue so that it doesn't stand out as much during the daytime.
Okay.
First, we have to file the paperwork. The lights got installed last summer. We had a special fundraising campaign. People helped fund it. So the new lights are in, but we're still using the old lights. So when we get FCC and FAA authorization to use the new lights, then we could tell the tower crew to come back, climb up to the tippity top, take the old one down, and then they'd be able to and then we'd switch over. I can't remember if I've shown you this before. Let me just do a quick find this image of my computer and then do a screen share. Oops, there goes my laptop. I have they took a picture when they installed it last summer on a gorgeous day. They took a picture and you could see the old light and the new light. Neither are lit, it's during the day, but I'll just show it off real quick. Okay. Let's see, share screen, that image. So I know you can't see it, Patty, but there's a picture of the existing tall red light. Incandescent. There's two bulbs in there. It's tall, like a lighthouse. It has a Fresnel lens. Then the new one is right next to it. It's flat and squat. It actually does have a Fresnel lens wrapped around it, but it's much thinner. But actually, that I've done this will now be on the record for when we post this. I can send around the pictures. So anyway, yes, we're looking forward to finally completing that project, hopefully this summer, once the paperwork's done.
I'm thrilled to have the new lights. I'm thrilled that they have new daytime lights as well. As a person who goes flying around this area at pretty low elevation, I'm a little apprehensive about being the first guy on the block with the blending in paint job.
Well, it'll be very bright, and you're supposed to say 500 feet above the ground. The tower's only 300. Got a happy dog there, Patty?
Well, I just pulled into my son's house and his two dogs came out.
Oh, that's nice.
And my dog is in the car, not anymore. Now it's quiet. Now she got out to fight with them.
Well, we're getting close to finishing off. There's only one more category before new business. That's the WMNR listening study excerpts. I'm getting close to publishing it. I'll I just wanted to at least share with everyone 4 of the 25 pages that I'm working on. The first one shows core and loyalty, and the bottom point is there's 2 big dots, one for smaller markets, one for PPM. PPM are top 50 markets. I should have changed that. It's an internal buzzword for the industry. And the fact that WMNR does so well, our loyalty and our core is almost the same as the smaller market stations. Says a lot, particularly given the fact that those smaller market stations are ones that are professionally programmed with a very consistent sound for the most part. And we have a wider range of music. We need to do so in order to compete successfully with WSAG, which already has a well-programmed narrow range of classical music, narrower than ours. And so that we do that well, it's very good. That's the first one. Any questions about loyalty and core?
No?
Okay. I think the next page was audience comparison.
Yeah.
And in that case, if this just compares us to smaller market stations, and the average is 2.0%, and we're 2.2% in Danbury, 1.5% in New Haven. And again, given the fact that in both of those markets we're competing with WSHU, that we're close to a national average or above the national average in the case of Danbury is quite good. The third slide is a page shows how core public radio listeners hear. This is based on a survey last summer of 30,000 public radio listeners, and the core ones, the ones that listen to public radio more than any other station. And it shows since 2013 how their use of listening over a radio has dropped from 83% down to 59%. And that their use of other platforms, smartphones, smart speakers, podcasts, web streaming on a computer has gone from 16% all the way up to 36%. You'll notice that those percentages have pretty much plateaued the last 3 years of the study. But it just shows how things are changing. We all know it anyway, and that just explains it. I am going to later, there are 3 studies we're doing, one on listenership, then one on income, membership, business partners, and then the last one will be on expenses. And I'm going to be overlaying some of these things. For example, I'll be able to, though it's a little bit apples to oranges, I'll be able to compare our broadcasts to our streaming. And we don't have 1/3 listening to us via streaming. Last winter, another manager told me normally it's 15%. I imagine we're somewhere closer to 10%, but it is still there. And I'll be taking a look at that down the road. I'll be finishing this study in which I'll release to everybody, and then I'll do the other 2 studies. When I mentioned this last time and Fred said, "Why are you doing this? Usually it means change." I said, no change, but the world is changing. And MNR has had many of the same broadcasters for 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 40 years. And we need to be able to do little tweaks for WMNR to make sure it continues because, things have changed. I mean, they're always changing, but particularly when it comes to the world of radio. And the last one just shows the streaming. And this is from a 5-year period, actually 6-year. And it just shows that while we have 64% of the number of people listening are from outside of Connecticut and New York, you can listen for 1 minute and count on this thing. but it's the length of listening that's important, whether it's on streaming or whether it's on your radio. Because only if somebody really listens to us a long time are they likely to become a member. Are we important to them? Do they value us? And so the point is the top number, 30%, 38% of the total listening hours to WMNR come from outside of the state, but 64% of the people come from outside. So the outside of Connecticut, New York, there's a lot of them, but they don't listen that much. So we're still, our most important area is still Connecticut and a little bit of New York. That's for the amount of listening that's done, and that's the most important thing. And one little tidbit, when I look at these 6-year numbers, so they're very reliable. 95% of our people are still listening in America. Only 5% listen overseas. So, that all of a sudden we're going to turn into an international station supported largely by people from outside the country. No, it's just going to be the little fun stuff that's overseas, but it's not going to be. It's never going to be our bread and butter. But it is fun to be able to. People can take us wherever they are, whether they move in America or listen overseas. I happen to know just from a word of mouth that one couple from Mount Kisco area, they spend a third or a half of the year in Germany. Well, they're members from Mount Kisco, but they listen to us when they're in Germany, those other months of the year, which is nice. It helps keep the connection, so to speak.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Goodness for streaming. Apparently, through streaming, you get a lot more listeners, and apparently all over the country. And a lot of people do listen to WMNR. It's I know my sister does from Texas. So
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah, no, it's great. And I will say that streaming is more efficient distribution method per listener than most broadcast is. It depends on how much rent we have to pay at the site. Some sites we pay a lot, some sites we pay nothing. But the internet works everywhere and is very efficient. And again, this is only one person, but there's a major donor in the Mount Kisco area, and they actually can get 88.1 in one room, but in another room they can't, so they listen to the local Mount Kisco translator. But in the third room, there's no radio, so in the third room they listen to us on their smart speaker. So the nice thing is, however they can, people, if they want to listen, they have a way to do it, and that's great.
Yeah.
Did not accept defeat.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay, moving on to new business. Anything you want to discuss?
Nope.
Anything lingering? Anything new on a generator?
Oh, as soon as I get the tower lights done, I'm going to start working on the generator. I did get some good leads since the local electrician said he didn't have the manpower to handle a big job like that. I did go next door to our studios where the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers has a meeting, otherwise known as the Electricians Union. And he gave me the names of a couple of guys who have enough manpower to do it. So I'll start asking for bids once we get the tower lights done.
Nice.
Yeah, but our current generator is working fine. Having the additional generator is something that people rarely have, but we will get it going because it was just a donation. So
The status of new member for the commission, Kathy.
Patty, do you have any news? I noticed Kathy wasn't on the agenda for tonight's town council meeting.
No, I have no news.
Okay.
Sorry. Sorry,
Okay.
no.
Well, it's not entirely up to you. It's got to go through a few other people. So
Yeah, not me.
Right.
Okay, we don't really have public participation tonight.
Well, you should ask if there is any. Maybe Rose has something she wants to say.
True.
No,
one's
I'm
more
good,
important than
thank you.
Rose.
Trying to
Thanks.
stay with freedom of information rules. We don't want to, So what I will do is when we get the minutes of this meeting and everything, I can send the material. I think I already sent the material to Kathy, but I'll certainly send the minutes so she can stay on top of stuff.
That's a
Jim,
good
if you're not
idea.
aware, a woman named Kathy Lohr has made it through the first round of approvals to join the commission, and I guess there's a couple more rounds yet for her to go through, but it looks like we'll have another member joining us soon.
Certainly before our next meeting. I was told, by the way, to take off on the agenda. I was told to take off the next meeting dates from the agenda, so I did. But they're on previous agendas. And just to review what our next meeting date is. It's not till I believe it's the first weekend in September. The first Tuesday in September, which is generally the first Tuesday after Labor Day. And pulling up an old agenda.
Yeah, I have Tuesday the 3rd.
Right. So the next meeting will be September 3rd, 2024. And then the one after that will be December 3rd, 2024. Okay.
Great. Thank you very much. Who would like to make a motion to adjourn at 7:48 p.m.?
I'll make that motion to adjourn.
I second it.
Great. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
We'll call the meeting adjourned at 7:48. Thank you very much, everybody.